Oh man, it's just every day's a new adventure.
Yeah, you just went for a skin check, I saw.
Yeah, so well, and I was supposed to go in June, but they had some openings today, which was nice because it was like a little bit earlier than before. Like I was supposed to go like late June. So they're trying, I guess they're just trying to fill back up their appointments because they had to like shut everything down and they couldn't really see many patients. They had to only, because I know a few months ago I went and they made it so I was the only patient that would be in the waiting room when I went. And that was like before everything really got shut down. Everyone was saying, oh, everybody has to wear a mask and all of that. So
So you are in the high risk right now, am I right or no?
yeah, and like it's so weird because I get mixed like answers from people. Like when
Mhm.
before I started the immunotherapy, my oncologist made it seem like I was going to have this like really crazy, amazing immune system, and that I wouldn't get like sick a lot, and that's just kind of like how he made it sound. And then when everything, it was literally a couple weeks later that everything kind of skirt to a halt, that they started, kind of giving out, oh, if you've had cancer or you're going through any sort of cancer treatment, even immunotherapy, or if you've had it and you're kind of in remission, for a while, you're all kind of in this really high risk class. So
Yeah,
I think everybody is just kind of, every day we get more information, and so everything's changing.
that's
And
the hard part.
so you just kind of have to go by, what are they saying today?
Yeah. The tough part about all that is this is all news for everyone. So, now it's like you read something else and you don't know which storyline to trust because one
Mm-hmm.
contradicts the other one. And so I'm sure it's tough
Yeah.
for you to balance between it all. And, if I were in your shoes, I'd probably just stick with whatever your doctor says and trust
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
because it's got to be tough, and the internet can be a double-edged sword as far as
Oh
information.
man. Well, and like I had to bring my kids back to daycare because my husband lost his job after everything shut down. And so he's been home, which has been great, but now it's kind of, we're getting to the point where he needs to start, making money, getting out there and like doing, getting some sort of income to kind of supplement what I'm able to do at home virtually. And so we had to bring our kids back to daycare. And so that's just a whole nother kind of level of anxiety and
Yeah.
everything, kind of having them there. I think it's twofold because we were having our own like mental health issues, just having them home 24/7, and me trying to explain to my very social 5-year-old who made like best friends with the kids in our neighborhood that we just moved to before everything shut down. Like we bought a house literally the day after
Wow.
surgery. So it was just kind of,
A lot. You've got a lot of stuff going on.
yeah. So to tell her like, no, you have to stay inside, like you can't hang out with your new friends
Yeah,
that
that's tough.
that are like literally right next door. It's just it was really, really trying and difficult.
Especially these young ones who quite don't understand what coronavirus means and what a pandemic is and how do
Yeah.
you explain that to them?
Yeah, yeah. And I just tried to say, like there's this sickness that's, it's making people, really, really sick, and it could make me very, very sick. And so I always just kind of reference, like, you remember when I had,
Yeah.
have my surgery, I had my scars, the doctor went in and took out, the things that were making me feel not so great. And, this new kind of sickness is out there, and it could, make me very, very sick. And so we want to make sure that we're, not around other people that might have it. It's invisible. Like it's hard to explain because it's like,
Yeah.
could have it. They don't look sick,
Mhm.
but it's definitely hard.
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old nephew and he is the same, kind of like so energetic, love to be around his family. And every time you talk to him, he's like, Aunt Katie, when the coronavirus is all gone, I really want to play games with you every time.
Yeah.
Is the coronavirus done yet? And it's
Yeah.
like, buddy, you know, we got to wait. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really, I mean, in their forefront, you know, because their life has changed so much. So
Yeah.
thanking to both of you for going through all of this, plus your help and the job and the house and everything. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot.
March 2018, I like how you said in your blog, lesson 1, listen to your gut. It's your body, you know what's what, which is a really
Yes.
great little line. So elaborate on that for me a little bit.
So, I was pregnant at the time. I think it had to have been like 19 weeks. It was just before spring break or a couple weeks before spring break. I work for one of the school boards in Florida. And I noticed like there was a mole in like the center of my chest. And
like around here?
yeah, and now you can kind of see my like crazy scar.
Wow.
Yeah.
You aren't kidding about a scar. My goodness.
It is crazy. It looks like it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, did you have open heart surgery?
Well, yeah, that's a scar.
Yeah. So it was 5 millimeters. So it was a good size mole. And I noticed it was like almost like a white pimple on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people, and myself included, I am like the first person to get on my husband's back and like pop his pimples and stuff.
Yeah, you said that. You're like, oh, don't be afraid, pimple, you know, Dr. Pimple Popper.
And so like I'm pregnant, and he said like, you know, let's just pop. It's probably just a pimple. Like I'll pop it for you. Like just something told me, I was like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. Like this doesn't seem like that should be the option. So I ended up I had a gynecology appointment, as an OBGYN appointment for my 20 week to find out the sex. And so I just mentioned to her like, hey, I have this thing on my mole, like, can you refer me to a dermatologist? And so she referred me, and it took a while, I feel like, for them to get back with me. I feel like it was almost 2 weeks before I finally got an appointment. And it was because I had called them and said, hey, you know, my gynecologist referred me to you. I haven't gotten a call yet. I need an appointment. I literally got in the next day. Mm-hmm. I feel like, you know, even in the 2 weeks that I was waiting to get the referral, that small, tiny, like pimple size, like had grown to the size of my whole mole. Like I had basically taken over the whole thing. And now like looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have taken pictures of it. And then, so that was like on a Tuesday I had it removed, and like and that was during spring break that I had it removed. Mm-hmm. So the next week, it was the first day back from spring break, and they called me in the morning during like a meeting I had. And she basically said, you know, I need you to come in. And it's, you know, it came back as melanoma. And even then I don't think it actually like sunk in.
I agree with that. Mine either.
Mm-hmm. Like I'm like a lot of people that are just so like, they don't know that that's a very serious thing. Later that day, and I had my husband with me and my mom, because I think my mom knew, and she just she didn't want to freak me out, I guess. And so she didn't really like prepare me. But I was sitting there, and I like the next day I went to work, and I like had to go home because I was just, it had like hit me like, bam, you have cancer and now you have to have surgery. I've talked to like other women who have developed melanoma after their first pregnancy, and like my heart just breaks for them, because it's like, I know I am like so just paranoid about getting pregnant again. And so I can't imagine like, you know, having to experience that, and then just being so afraid to, you know, try and have another, and like that kind of limiting you. And
there are so many stories of women going through, because mine isn't like yours, but similar, second baby having the tumor come back. It's like, I hear this time and time again of all these women just thinking that they're in the clear or not realizing that they're being diagnosed. And it could change the way people may or may not have a baby, or at least knowing the risks, what they're up against, or being more aware, like, of their body during their pregnancy. Like, so many things could run into pregnancy and melanoma.
I definitely think that needs to be addressed. I think that the reason it hasn't is they've never been able to make a definitive connection.
Yeah, they told me that too.
All of the research that I've done, just reading on my own, there's enough anecdotal evidence for it to be something that I think, OBGYNs should have as a common practice. Make sure that you're very aware of the changes in your skin, and, not to alarm people, but
alert them.
People are alerted. And so, because if that mole on my chest had been anywhere else on my body, I probably wouldn't have even realized that there was a mark on it. So it's great that it happened when it did. It happened during my second trimester. So which is if you're going to have surgery during pregnancy, that's probably the best time to have it.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of my chest, so I could see and that was something that it was just in my face all the time.
Yeah. You could see the changes. And
if you don't know, then then it just becomes even more of a increased stage.
I read your blog, crying the whole time, because it's so many different things about this I can relate to. And I just my heart broke for you, because your daughter is 4 when you're going through all this, and mine was 5. And so I'm just reading it, and all these flashbacks are going through. I commend you for it, and just being I can say this to enough to people, just to be aware of your skin, and you just saying okay, this isn't right, and trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Probably saved your life alone. And your baby, and I say this to mine, saved your life essentially, because had that just maybe slowly grown, it could have gotten deeper and spread. And it's kind of incredible, but also tragic at the same time.
Yeah. And it just, and I have, it happened so quickly. I think I say that in my blog too. I just didn't have time to process anything that happened, because it was I got the news. The next week I was in surgery, and then they were okay, everything's clear. We got it. And then I was okay, great.
Do you feel now you're being able to process, or do you still it's catching up slowly?
I think it's catching up slowly. I think I'm at a place now that I've kind of accepted that this might not be the last time that I have a tumor pop up. And, even though, they had it removed that I found in my breast, and everything was clear. I am so thankful that they are not just leaving it at that, and they're having me continue with immunotherapy, because, and the scans and everything, because melanoma cancer cells are so small that, they can go undetected within your system, and they can just kind of attach on somewhere. And I know that that's probably what happened and everything. I think before, it just happened so quickly that I didn't, it was just kind of over before it began. And I just kind of moved on with my life.
Yeah.
And
I totally understand and relate to that. It's exactly what I did throughout all the journey. I just went, it was almost just okay, on to the next. And then eventually you have time to just look back and reflect, and you're just what did I just go through? How did I make it here? How am I feeling about it? I need to, release all of the built up emotions. And
yeah.
I don't know how you do that or how the healthy way for you to release some of that. But yeah, if you could touch on that.
I was starting like with trying to like sleep and like make sure that I'm not, you know, overexerting myself. And I think that that was kind of helping me. And I kind of got to a point where, you know, I felt very like sluggish, got into like a really great routine. And then when January came and I found the other tumor, I was like, oh, I can't do that anymore. You know, I was like in pain. And then, you know, even now, like it's still like the nerves are still coming back where I had my incision. And it's just such a weird feeling. Like I do get a little bit more fatigued with the immunotherapy. I feel like taking at least like, you know, 4 times a week, even if I'm like walking. Now I'm kind of consistently running every day. But even before, it was really helpful for me to just do something active, of get my adrenaline pumping in, because I think that that kind of helps me relieve all the emotions that I'm feeling, all the stress, all the anger, the sadness. Like everybody that I've met, like in our little melanoma community, and like even like more and more people who have like reached out to me just from like my posts, I found that like connecting with you guys like has been really, really helpful also.
Yeah, it's comforting to know that you're not like alone, and you're not feeling like you're the only person on the planet that is going through it. And then on top of that, like your family's trying to understand, but they can't really feel or know what it's like to be you. I have someone that can validate everything that I'm going through is real. And, you know, it's, I know for me, like not having had that in such a time where social media was barely being born, right now, like that's my main goal for anyone that I know, is to not have that loneliness that I know I hated so much. Yeah. So that's my goal with all of you guys, is to just feel safe, a place that you can really like connect with. And I'm really glad that you're able to have that. Currently, you said you were melanoma came back January of 2020. So you said like melanoma never crossed your mind to be this tumor, right? That you never thought it's a possibility because of where it was located, right?
Yeah.
So you went to a breast clinic first, and then when you found out it was melanoma and metastasized, where does that leave you today?
So I had a PET scan and an MRI done before having like the kind of the margins excised, because they basically just did a lumpectomy, and so they weren't treating it as melanoma. They just were treating it as like something that needed to be taken out and like sent to pathology. So I had to have a third surgery to just excise the margins, make sure all the other surrounding tissue didn't have any lingering. So I basically had a partial mastectomy. And then I had an MRI scan of my brain and then a PET scan. And both of those scans came back very clear, like there was no other areas, which I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness that's the case. Because and that's when I had my panic attack, was like waiting for the results of that. I like could not control my, I couldn't control myself. So then they started me on the week after the surgery on the keytruda immunotherapy treatment. And so I just finished my 4th treatment last week. And everything's been going fine. Like they've been very mild symptoms with the keytruda, like, you know, fatigue, headaches, like some bowel stuff I won't really get into. It's like But I mean, it's just very, very mild. And like, I didn't have a reaction, which I know some people have that with immunotherapy. And so I didn't have any sort of like adverse reactions to it, to be super concerned about. But the last time when they did my blood work, it did come back that I had developed hyperthyroidism.
Okay.
So my TSH levels became very, very low. I think they're at like a 0.08.
For those who don't know do you know the normal? Because I don't.
The normal, so on the lower end of the range, it's like 0.35, like the lowest it can be. And so I'm going to an endocrinologist next week to kind of see what they advise me to do, if they need to put me on medication or but it does explain like the other symptoms that, like, hyperthyroidism can really like increase your levels of anxiety. It can, cause mood swings, and which
makes sense for you.
Cabin fever, but
yeah,
it was something different. So, and then I become very restless at night. Like I've been not getting a lot of great sleep, and I had been taking like melatonin at night, which had been helping, but I think even that now is just it's not cutting it for me anymore. So
have you considered trying a sleep medication or something to kind of help you? Because sleep loss is so unhealthy, and I go through it constantly. So
yeah, well, and I was going to bring it up to the endocrinologist because when I saw them, because it really has only been the last couple of weeks, and I think that's just because like my thyroid levels of like the TSH has been going down steadily over my last couple of treatments. I went back and kind of looked at the levels, and it had basically been cut in half every time I had blood work done for my keytruda. So I think it's gotten to a point where it's starting to kind of take over.
Oh wow, girl! I never took keytruda. It wasn't. I mean, it was mentioned to me once, I think, throughout my history. But can you touch a little bit on, if you know, like what the drug does for you and for melanoma?
So it basically kind of introduces or like teaches your cells to attack like those cancer cells, so it kind of boosts your immune system so that it has like the fighting power to go against like those cancer cells.
Kind of like Yervoy does, or Ipi for.
Yeah, I think that they're all very similar. I don't know how he went about like choosing keytruda as the option for me. And it might have been because that's maybe the immunotherapy that they go for when you don't have existing tumors. After, it might be one that they go for after they've removed all the tumors, and they're just trying to get those teeny tiny cells that might be lingering around in your body. Because I do know that there are other people who are on immunotherapy that are on a different immunotherapy that are also kind of battling existing tumors that maybe not be operable.
Yeah, because a lot of people I speak with are doing that combo. And I wondered if, like you said, with the tumors, plus does it, given it is it kind of considered like I don't know the word I'm looking for. This is my brain just not functioning. This is what it does to me.
Like a preventative.
Yeah. This is what my brain does. I try to think of the word and I'm like, it's there, and I can't. Yes, a preventative. Is it considered kind of that thing for you, or no?
Yeah, I think that's kind of in what I read about keytruda, it's like this is kind of the go-to for stage 4 post-surgery.
Okay.
Post getting lymph nodes or whatever. They didn't take any lymph nodes this time because they took enough last time.
Yeah. I get that. Both your arms were taken, correct?
Yeah. So it was like 4 under this one and 3 on the other side, or it might have been opposite way. But I think they ended up taking more from one side because like there was like a cluster really close together. And so they were like, this one might have it because it's closest to where it would go, but we're also going to take these other ones because
that's smart.
If it were to have spread, then it would have been in like that whole cluster, basically.
Proactive on your arms there.
Yeah.
That's really
good. So I got a scar under there, that huge one on my chest, and then
you got battle wounds. You got warrior stories, girlfriend. Warrior stories.
Well, and this one is so like it did not heal. Like it's so large, like wide, because they had closed it and they waited the amount of time that you're normally supposed to wait after surgery to remove the stitches. But I think I don't think that my pregnancy was necessarily like taken into account for like the healing time. I don't really know how they go about that because typically pregnant women are not undergoing surgery. So I don't even know if there's any sort of like studies done about how quickly they can recover from a surgery. But I think that because I was pregnant, I was, and I was like low in iron, I was kind of anemic. I did not recover as quickly. So my wound dehisced basically when they took my stitches out and opened back up. And it was like just a hole in my chest. Like,
oh my gosh.
I couldn't see anything under, like none of the tissue had grown back or like kind of resurfaced. And so I ended up having to go into the hospital on like a Friday night. My best friend, my kid's godmother, had to go pick up my daughter from daycare for us because my husband was with me at the hospital. I basically had to spend the weekend in the hospital waiting for my insurance to approve a wound vac for me to take home because they had to do a wound vac on my scar. And the kicker, my friend calls me on her way home from picking my daughter up from daycare. And she said, yeah, so they said that she has lice. So she had to delouse my whole house. She had to delouse my daughter. She came to the hospital the next day and deloused because I had lice also in my head at the hospital.
Your story is my twin, I swear. My 8-month-old went through lice. When I was going through your situation, like therapy and stuff, I about died. I screamed. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
It's awful.
This is crazy. Lice is the worst.
I know. And when I told my coworkers when I got back from work, they were just like, man, like you cannot cut a break.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. And then you're just like, so everything about you, that's all you can think of. It's all consuming. Did anyone else in your family get it? Because I was luckily the only one that did.
So I don't think that my husband got it. Well, he still treated himself, but I don't think he actually had it. But he always has gel in his hair. Like he always styles his hair before he went to work and stuff. So I think that was why they ended up not getting on his head. And my friend is just super good at delousing, I guess.
Oh my gosh, girl. I hate
she had to treat our couch and because our couch was like fat. Like it was terrible.
I'm so sorry. I literally hate lice so much. I'm like, I had, so off the subject, but kind of, my daughter had 5 different kids in 4th grade go through lice. Like I almost pulled her from the class. I was over it.
God.
I was over it. I was like, she comes home with lice, I'll die. I hate bugs anyway, but anyway, okay. Ugh.
I know, like when you talk about it, it's just like your head's you're just like, no.
You poor thing. Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
But yeah, so I don't even know where we're going with this.
You're just saying like you were in the hospital and then you got
So I had to stay the whole weekend because they basically were like, well, because of your criteria, like you're young, and it was like all of these criteria that that they normally would just be like, oh yeah, send that person home with a wound vac.
Yeah.
Insurance will approve it. But like, for some reason, I was in the criteria that they were like, I'm not sure if your insurance is going to send you home with a wound vac. So I ended up having to stay in the hospital over the weekend until Monday morning when they could say, yeah, my insurance can cover that.
Take a whole weekend to do that.
Yeah. And then, so I had a wound vac for a couple months. And then that's why it didn't kind of close very nicely and neatly into
I have to pull it together. I have scars that are still pink. Like, I had skin biopsy, little moles removed probably, I don't know, like 4 months ago now, and they're still red like that.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a while for my body to heal, and I don't know if it's just because of treatment and just going through so much, but I have the same issues. So
my scars tend to keloid, like they like get raised. And I didn't even connect, like I used to have my nose pierced, but like I had it pierced like 4 different times because it kept like keloiding around the piercing.
Really?
So I didn't even realize that was like, that would have happened to like scar. I'd never had surgery before.
Yeah.
Whole thing. So I didn't know, but I guess that's just how my body reacts. So a lot of my scars are kind of raised a little bit.
Does that scar hurt? This one?
Sometimes. It's like, it feels weird because it's almost like I still don't have nerve feeling there. But like that part of my body isn't like I didn't really feel with it anyway. So like kind of this, I know that I've lost some feeling in like the back of my arm, which is weird from my lymph nodes being taken out. And so that's kind of weird feeling sometimes.
Yeah, I have the same spot right through here.
Yeah,
it feels weird.
And it's really like the scar on my breast now that kind of bothers me, because they basically had to like, it's just very tight there, and like wearing bras is kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it's because it's just kind of like, it's like at that spot where like the underwire ends, so it's
so it's just so uncomfortable, just the annoying spot.
Yeah. So,
one other thing I like that you said lesson 3, find your squad and stick with them. Did you do any second opinion, or did you just like, I trust them, I feel comfortable here, I'm staying?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't get a second opinion, because first of all, like I love my OBGYN. She is like one of the best doctors I've ever had. And I had her with my daughter. And so I went back because, and at first I wanted to have like a home birth with my son, because the first time I went like all natural, I didn't have any drugs with Parker. And so I was like, oh, it's really cool to have like a water birth. And thank goodness it happened the way that it did, because like if I had been going to a midwife, I think this whole thing would have been like totally different.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that I stuck with her, because she, even with her, like she listened, like the hospital itself is just really great, because they're not ones to push things on people like that they don't want to do. And but they also like give you a lot of information about, other ways that you can go about, with like giving birth and everything. So I felt comfortable there. And I'm glad that I went back to her, because she was the one who basically referred me to all of my other doctors. And so I guess it was because like she was the one who kind of vouched for them, that I was like, okay, like I know that they're good, because they're people that my main doctor, kind of sent me to.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good. When you have that trust within doctors, it makes everything a little less scary, because you feel comfortable and they're making you feel as comfortable as possible, and you start to build a really close relationship with them. I have same kind of thing, a doctor that I trust, that I would refer, even when my oncologist would tell me something, I would say, well, we need to call Dr. Pajkai and we need to get her opinion. And I think it's very important that you get a squad and you stick together, because everything in the process is going to be so much easier for everyone, really.
Yeah. And there's such, I hear horror stories about people who've gone through all sorts of different medical conditions that have just had terrible experiences with doctors not communicating with one another, or things just getting lost in translation. And it just like pains me. Like my friend had like a terrible experience with her first doctor with her first baby. And they struggled to get pregnant at first. And so when she finally, was pregnant, she was going through that. I was just like, man, like you should go to somebody different. Like if you're not having a good, like you need to find somebody that makes you feel good and is going to really be like that partner with you through this process.
Are you the first in your family with melanoma, or is this like a history, or you don't know yet?
So I actually had genetic testing done after
Me too.
primary. Thankfully, they were like, it was able to be paid for by like, because I mean, I don't really know how that process works. But
me too. I don't either.
My oncologist encouraged it. And so I did. I went and I got genetic testing, and I actually don't have any genes for any sort of common cancers. Like even the ones that like are common in my family. Like my grandmother battled breast cancer for many years. My uncle has prostate cancer, and he's currently, going through that. And so, and like that, those two are on the same gene. So, and I'm like so much like my mom, and that's like that side of the family. And so I just assumed that would be the thing that would be there. I did find out that my aunt on my dad's sister has had many different like bouts of melanoma, like a lot of different ones that she's had to have like removed on her face and things like that. But all of those occurred very late in her life, like never, like I think 60 plus. So it's just kind of one of those like freak things. Like how did, like what, I was 28 at the time, like when I was pregnant with my son. I got melanoma. Like, I mean, he would go fishing and like wouldn't wear sunscreen. Like he just would go all day, like all day he'd get burnt. Yeah. And then the next day, like he'd be like red, brown. I mean, he's part Cherokee. He's like a very small part, but he's part Cherokee, Indian. So like his skin type is just very like, he's not one of those people that burns and then like peels all over his body. Like, yeah, right. And so again, like we had the same thing I did was like, oh, if I'm a little bit tanned, I'm good to go to be out in the sun or whatever. And so, I mean, I think now because of everything that I've gone through, and I know that like you've expressed some like difficulties trying to communicate to people that that are still like not, taking precautions. And so like I'm now at that point where it's like what I went through when I was pregnant, like what I'm going through now. Like I'm constantly like telling you guys, this is not anything that you need to mess around with. Like I don't care about whether you think you have like family history or not. Like I didn't have family history. Like, and I never went into a tanning bed. Like I've never been in a tanning bed ever in my life. And so like, I see people like on Instagram, like, oh man, I got burned really bad today. And I just like, I'm messaging them like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Yeah. So it's definitely now like a battle. I feel I'm like attacking my children with sunscreen before they go outside. And, it's just kind of like one of those things, like, I guess I do what I can. And then it's like, people got to live their lives, I guess.
Yeah.
The way that they want them.
You can only say it so many times, and you can, continue to say it. Like my family hasn't done half as good as they probably should with sunscreen and sunblock. And even my dad getting basal cell carcinoma, like he I think he does better, but I don't think he really
Mm-hmm.
put on sunblock every day. Like, and I don't know, like for your husband being, you know, with his heritage and like being an outside person, is he always putting on sunblock now, or is he still kind of sometimes forget? Which is
So it's mostly like when we know we're gonna be outside,
yeah,
like for a significant amount of time, and or we know that we're gonna be like in the sun. Like our friends live on a lake, and so we go and we have lake days over there, and so I'm always like, okay, time for sunscreen for everybody. Like everybody gets sunscreen. So, but I mean, now he does make a conscious effort to make sure that he's putting sunscreen on himself and like with the kids.
yeah.
Like if he's taking them and I'm not there, like, you know, reapplying it and making sure that they're covered, or like they have their rash guards, or they take a break under the umbrella, you know, in the shade. So I think it's definitely like changed his, I guess, proactiveness now, especially now that it's come back. I think he was kind of in the same like state of, we couldn't really process it, you know, because it happened so quickly the first time around, and he was, I mean, he's been a huge, just he's been a huge help
Yeah, I can
in
imagine.
general with everything, and he internalizes a lot of things, and so I think he doesn't like to let show a lot of times when he's in, you know, dealing with things. He kind of shoves himself into like work mode or
Mine
cleaning
too.
mode.
Mine too. He's like it's like focus, work, 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 work. When he doesn't process it, and then so it kind of for me. I don't know if this is for you, but it kind of leaves me sometimes just feeling like, can we please just talk about it? Like I just want to talk and know that you're okay, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard knowing that you're hurting someone it's gonna make me cry, that you love so much, like
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you are part of that pain. And so when they don't talk about it, it makes it even harder. Like you just want to know, like, I'm sorry, I'm, you know, like if I could take it back, I would. Like I used to tell that to my husband all the time, like, this is your free out if you want to go, like, you know, just
Yeah.
like I always felt so bad, just
Yeah.
being a source of the pain for. So I totally understand that when they're internalize everything. So
Yeah.
to tell you, I don't know. Have you seen that Sunzee wristband before that I've kind of touched on?
Is it the one that like changes colors?
The little. I'll show you. I don't know. Your family would probably be really good for these. These sunscreen.
Oh, so it like tells you when to reapply?
No, but it doesn't do that. But it has it for the kids. There's kid sizes too. But literally, you just push right here, and the sunscreen comes out right here, and it's waterproof.
Oh, wow.
Sunscreen, and they're really great. I can send you the link for it, and plus,
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
and I have a coupon for it. But these little, so this is the baby kid one, but these just come right out,
Yeah.
and you just refill it. Like they have cartridges.
Refill them.
This you can't refill on your own, but they have cartridges that come with it in the kit, and
Uh-huh.
your family would be good for that since you guys always go out. And
Yes. Yeah. We love being out on the water. And my son especially like is obsessed with the water.
if you had like one thing you could say to like the next generation of people as far as skin cancer goes, what would you say?
Your tan is not as important as you think it is.
It's very true.
Like it's there's so many different ways that
To get tan.
you get a glorious glow without exposing yourself to UV ray, whether it be in the sun or in a tanning bed.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's just not worth it.
No, that's something I think that needs to be said more often. I think it's said, but not like really said with the importance of why. Kids
Mm-hmm.
hear it like, oh yeah, the sun's this, the sun's that, but they don't really understand how detrimental it is to your body long term, even if you don't end up with skin cancer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's harmful to your body when you get older, and the risks of getting skin cancer are so much higher. And I
Yeah.
think that needs to be pushed on again for this generation currently, and then the following, like you said, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and even I think about, like I was never an outdoor sports person. I played volleyball and like one season of basketball, but we won't talk about that because I was terrible. I did some track and field one a couple of seasons, but it was mostly indoor volleyball. But I just think about like all of the outdoor, like my husband played baseball and when he was in high school and in middle school. And I think like all my coworkers, I mean, most of them have boys that play soccer and they're like out in the sun all the time. And I just think like, I think they have a false sense of like protection because they have like maybe like the long sleeve shirts or the long pants or like the long socks that go along with, soccer and things like that. But I definitely think that there needs to be some more awareness around kids in outdoor sports, like, and I know you can't mandate anything like this, but just like, making sure that organizations are educating their members, like the team members that are participating in these sports, that it's the importance of putting sunscreen on, even if you're in like a winter sport. Like in Florida, it's literally sunshine all year round. Like it gets cold where I am, but I mean, you always have sunshine all the time. And so I feel like that's like my next sort of like step, getting information out to like the younger generation. And I feel like that's like a great place to start. Those kids that we know are going to be exposed to UV rays for a good amount of time during the week and the weekend when they're playing sports and traveling and things like that. And I think it's Florida especially, and I don't know about in Arizona. I know it's sunny all the time. It's pretty sunny there too.
So sunny. Yes, you're right. And something I was telling Candace from Melanoma Blows, I was saying like, I want to get youth sports to have a requirement as part of their uniform is a small bottle of sunscreen, to have that be mandatory, or it needs to have some SPF clothing, like at least on the, the arms of these baseball boys, for example.
Yeah.
Who are just baking in the sun out there.
Yeah.
But those boys don't put on sunscreen. I just know it.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband definitely didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, like in one of my posts, I had talked about the time I had spent at a summer camp as a counselor and growing up, like going to summer camp. And before all of this happened, because the camp is actually owned by the school district that I work for in Florida, I was going to try and like get connected with them to come out and talk to all the counselors the week before camp started, because I think that like that was probably a lot of the exposure that kind of led to me getting melanoma. I was in the sun a lot more outside of that, but that was a lot of time spent in the sun. And even though like we did have we have sunscreen stations, they have sunscreen stations all over camp, for kids to use, even if they don't bring their own sunscreen. So it's not a matter of not having sunscreen available, but I think it's also just like the amount of time, especially the counselors are spending in direct sunlight, going from class to class or teaching people water classes that are just, out all the time. And there was days I just was wearing a bathing suit all day. Like, it's not like a summer long, like summer camp, like a lot of camps up north. Yeah. But it's definitely, I think like the counselors are the ones that are really getting a lot of that exposure, more so than the campers for sure. Because I think they do a good job of making sure that they, like the campers are covered and they have sunscreen, or if they see a camper that has like a really bad sunburn or gets a bad sunburn, like they move them out of the classes. Like they don't let them go into their like water classes or get exposed, you know, or they take precautions to make sure that that child's protected, because that's just,
That's
it's not good to pick up your kid on Friday and
yeah.
do it, Chris.
So good that they actually take the time for that. I didn't know that even was at summer camps, that kids were having that access to sunscreen. So that's really good to hear, especially in Florida, like you're saying, sun all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. Really good. Do you have any questions for me that you want to ask?
I was a little curious because I know that your kids were really small when you started going through this, because you talked about like your youngest was like 6 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just like, I've kind of explained it to her, and like I've used the word cancer, but I know that she still doesn't understand what that means or like what that is. I wonder, like, as they've grown older, how is that kind of changed, or how have you kind of like readdressed it in a way that's like, I guess, more fitting for older kids that kind of have a little bit more awareness? Because I know that like eventually I want to have that conversation with both of them and kind of have them understand the seriousness, so they know I'm not just being this like crazy sunscreen lady.
You know, it's a really good question, because as kids grow, obviously the word cancer becomes more of a powerful word. It's, you know, it's the meaning of it becomes more apparent to them. So for my kids, like, they always knew kind of what I was doing. Like if I was getting a follow-up scan, I would say, hey guys, I'm going in for a scan. I'll let you know the results as soon as I do. And, you know, I had to re-explain some things as far as what I'm doing it for. But for you, like, how old's your oldest now currently?
She's 5.
So do you feel like you want to re-explain it to her at a certain age?
I don't know. I just know like as she gets older, I want her to be aware, and like I want her to like, just like I want other kids to kind of like understand the need to like protect your skin, and how serious it is. But at the same time, like she's at an age where it's like, I don't want to overwhelm her with
It's smart
seriousness, you know, because even with like the coronavirus, like even with that and her going back to daycare, I mean, she got very scared, like when she found out that she was going to go back to school, because she was really worried about getting me sick and like bringing the way that we had explained it. And I had to be like, no, it's okay. Don't worry about that. You know, just like make sure you like keep your hands clean, you wash your hands, like don't like get on top of other people, you know. So I kind of had to like take some steps backwards in some of the things that I had been like talking with her about, why we couldn't go outside and all of that. Because I didn't want her to be fearful, like being in school.
Anxiety and
it's older. I want her to understand like the importance of, you know, like what I went through, and how she can take steps to make sure that like it doesn't happen, or to prevent it from happening to her, and like in the future, and, you know, with her kids or whatever.
Well, I can tell you for me that I was very honest to them. Like you said, like I didn't give them the whole guts of everything all the time, but I was very honest about where I was going. And I would, as they got older, probably like, you know, when Kylie was probably like 7, 8, I would just say like, and she'd be like, you know, tell her friends like, my mom has cancer. And I would say, do you have any questions? Whatever she wanted to know about is what I would address first. And then I would kind of educate me on what I can tell her and how much of it I can tell. because you're right. You don't want to overwhelm them or give them anxiety or make them fearful of anything. And you want to protect them as much as you can. But my suggestion would be to just have them ask. And even if they don't have any questions, just say like, okay, mommy's going to go and continue to try and get this sickness out of her, or however you word it for her. And I think about 11, 12 is when I would just address it completely and just say like, this is what melanoma is. This is why we always do sunscreen. This is what it, and these are the things you need to look for in your body. Because my daughter has some spots on her body that I have always been concerned about. And I got her a skin check probably when she was 8. Just a mild one, the clothes were still on, but they would just go over and check things out. And so that was another thing, like expressing the importance of being aware of your body and watching it. I think being aware of your body is probably something you could do at a very early on age.
Yeah, I actually made my next skin check appointment. I'm actually going to bring them with me.
No, you should. I feel like it's
check them out. Yeah,
educational, and they can also kind of see and hear. They might not even register. That's the other thing. Like just being aware of it. Like I would bring them to appointments, even oncologist appointments. Sometimes I had to, but just having them hear it and having it in their mind kind of made it always like, okay, cancer is in our life, and mom is dealing with cancer, and no,
that's
tell you.
I think that's good.
They're sponges; they know everything. So I would read them first. It's my best suggestion.
Yes.
I think one of the hardest things is young children trying to explain and talk to them about cancer. I went to look for a book on cancer and how to talk to your kids about it. It doesn't exist. I think you're doing a great job. I mean, just being as open as you can with them, and they'll catch on slowly. And the sunscreen is always talking to them while you're doing it and how much you have to do it and why you got to reapply. They just soon it's like part of their, growing up.
There's been so many times I'm like, I don't want to update her about what's happening in the news. I don't want to cause her more anxiety about things. Like, I didn't even want to tell her about the lump that I found when I found it in January, because I was like, I don't want to worry if it's nothing. And my husband was like, you need to tell her. Like, you need to let her know. She'll be more upset than you can say anything.
You're so right. You're right. And I know for her, she was that way. She didn't want to hurt my feelings or make me stressed out. So she kind of opened up to my sister, and, they might have that growing up, like someone or cousin, even like, I don't know, someone that they're going to learn to trust with. And that's a good way to go about it as well. As your vision for melanoma and being a part of what I've been doing this month.
I think it's reinvigorated my and reminded me why I started my Instagram and my blog, started connecting with everybody, and because I think not just May, but I think all the time we need to be reminding people that it's important, and that it's not ever going to go away if we just ignore it and think that everything's going to be okay. So I think it's kind of put a fire under me in a sense that, and I think just connecting with you and everybody else, I think has encouraged me to keep it going past, this month, and to continue it, into the future. And hopefully, I can start, something in my community, or, the places around me where, it does make a difference for the kids and the next generation of people. And that in the future, it's not just going to be looked at just skin cancer. Something much more serious than that. Yes, it can start in your skin, but if you don't catch it, or you're not paying attention, it can really devastate you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And my primary was only stage 2, and it was still like this very, I mean, I don't know if traumatic is the right word.
No, it is.
Like, I mean, it's just, it's definitely something that turned my whole world upside down. And even then I didn't feel like I really have the sense that I do now of like how serious it can be.
Mm-hmm. So it basically, it sounds like you found like a stronger passion and voice from it. You feel like all of us coming together for this, do more with all of you guys. It's just been so great to have all of you. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's been so fun to meet all of you. And I really want to thank you for doing this chat and just being a part of it. And, you know, it's just been fun.
Yes, it has been. I'm glad that I was able to meet you at the beginning of all, like, I guess beginning, but like, you know, a couple months ago. And I'm glad that I've been able to be a part of this kind of growing community that we have. Cause I think it's encouraging for myself, but also I think I feel good when I can like encourage others and like make sure that others, it's not like they're not the only people that have had, you know, the experiences that I've had, and that they can have somebody to kind of turn to.
Yeah, and if you have someone that you feel that would be good for any of our group chats or just like would want to do anything, just let me know.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Casey. It was so good to chat with you.
Yes. Thank you, Katie.
All right. Have a good day.
Okay, you too.
Bye.